Preparing the live stream for the meeting. You're going to have to go over to,
Yeah, I'll have to tell
you're
him.
going to have to,
Facebook.
you're going to have to find the link.
Oh, looks
So
like
you're
it's
going to have
do
to,
it. Okay,
you're going to
great.
have to channel in, do it
Okay.
after.
Okay.
We're just about ready. We are now live. Go ahead.
All right, we want to welcome everyone to this week's or this month's UV Tag meeting. We're excited to have our members. They're watching on Zoom. We have quite a few members watching on Zoom, and then we also have, we were trying to get this to stream to our Facebook page, but we're having a little bit difficulty, so we will be putting in a link to our YouTube channel that we just set up. So we're glad that we had a backup for that. So we will get that link to everyone on Facebook. We just would like to, we're excited today to have two classes by Kathryn Grant. It's so great that she is willing to do this for her.
Thanks.
We also are going to start with an opening prayer by Gerhard.
I'm going to have to move over. Okay.
We'll have him, we'll switch the screen. Thank you, Gerhard.
Our Father in heaven, we're grateful to Thee for our privilege of having technology that allows us to reach a large number of people who are interested in family history and searching out their ancestors. We're grateful for the many individuals that are involved in this glorious and eternal work, and seek Thy blessing on our efforts. In the name of Thy Son, Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you so much for that prayer. So just a couple of things, the handouts, we will be putting the handout to our class in, we'll do it in the Zoom chat. So if you're on Zoom, you can get it there in the chat. And then on YouTube, we'll go ahead and put it in the comments on YouTube. And we'll also put it in Facebook too, but you'll need to go to YouTube to watch this. And if you have questions, please make sure to input. We can actually have live questions on the Zoom. So we'll talk about that when we get to that point. But then we will also, you can also ask questions on the YouTube channel as well. So let's get started. But before we start, just wanted to mention next month, we already have our classes set up. We've got Beth Wiseman. She'll be doing two classes for us. Getting started with DNA and genealogy is the first class. The second will be DNA. I've tested, now what? That's what I always ask. So that'll be exciting to have her do that, those classes on DNA. We'll look forward to that. But today we are so excited again that we have Kathryn Grant. The first class she'll be doing is fixing incorrect merges in FamilySearch family tree, which all of us need that. It's rough when people make mistakes and you have to undo what people have done. So we're excited to have her help us. She'll be telling us a little bit about how to recognize these incorrect merges and how to fix them. And once you're fixed, how you can reduce the likelihood of them being, redone again, being incorrect again. So we're excited for that. And I just wanted to do a little background on Kathryn. She began doing family history and she discovered that she loved it. Her specialty is helping new family historians find success and maybe even avoid some of the mistakes she's made. She teaches Sunday classes, webinars at BYU Family History Center and also at Riverton. And so we are so excited to have her. We're going to go ahead and let you go with it. Thank you, Kathryn.
Great. Thank you so much, Carol. Okay, I'm just going to share my screen here. And go to full screen mode. There we go. So everybody, I am so excited to be with you today. Thank you so much for taking time out on a Saturday morning to come to this class. And my prayer is that it will be helpful and useful to you. It's a really important topic because I think we've all run across incorrect merges in family tree. And then also, I know that a lot of our audience are consultants. So not only are you working on your own family history, but you're helping other people with theirs. And so I hope this class will be helpful to you personally and also give you some ideas for helping the people that you work with. So let's take a look at what we've got on our little schedule today. Our first topic is how do you spot an incorrect merge? What are the red flags, in other words? How do you undo an incorrect merge? And what kind of cleanup is necessary after repairing an incorrect merge? One thing I did want to emphasize is we're actually not going to go into deep analysis on this. We actually have a webinar that gets more into the deeper analysis, going through the change log piece by piece and so forth. But this will give you at least the basics of how to undo an incorrect merge. And then if you're interested in more information, I'll mention which webinars you could check out for that. Okay, so how do you spot an incorrect merge? I'm going to give you the one secret for doing this. It's a basic guideline, and it's very simply look for stuff that doesn't make sense. Well, probably you've seen a lot of that, but let's just look at some examples of things that you might run across that could indicate a bad merge. So a child who is christened before they were born, a child with multiple sets of biological parents, a child born before the parent's birth or after the parent's death, a child born when the parents are too young. Have you ever seen a mom having kids in family tree when she's 3? Probably not going to happen, right? Children born too close together, maybe they're just 3 months apart. That's also probably not going to happen. It could happen in the case of an adoption, but most of the time this is going to indicate a bad merge in family tree. Or children spaced too far apart. So you might have a set of 5 children born all 2 years apart, and suddenly you go 20 years and then another 5 or 10 children. Probably that's not going to happen either in real life. An unlikely number of children. I remember looking at a set of one person's merge page that had something like 35 children. Probably that's not going to happen in real life. But wait, there's more red flags. You can have unlikely birthplaces for children. And by that, to explain what I mean by that, let me give you an example. So I was working with a stake member. I'm a stake consultant right now, and she showed me her a person page of somebody in her tree, and it had something like 18 children. So not likely, but still possible. So we started to go through it. Then we saw that the children kept bouncing all around England. So they had kids over they had one kid in Shropshire, then one kid in Worcestershire, and one kid someplace else. And they kept circling around the country. Well, back in the 1800s, that families didn't do that, right? If you're traveling by horse and wagon, you're not going to just keep going in a circle around the country, most likely. And it turned out there were about 4 families that were merged together in that particular case. Also, another red flag is conflicting information in the other information section, such as 2 completely different names. That can indicate a bad merge, or names that are similar but far enough apart that they are a red flag to you. Closely related to that, we could have conflicting sources. For example, 2 different censuses for the one person in the same year. Now, granted, in the last like 15, 20 years that I've been doing research, I have run across maybe twice that somebody was enumerated in 2 censuses in the same year, and I really knew it was them. But that's really an edge case. Most of the time, if you see 2 censuses for somebody on the family tree page and it's the same for the same person, it's not going to be right. It's a sign of a bad merge. Also, a marriage date after a death date most of the time is going to be wrong. And again, I realize there's some exceptions to that where we had sealings that were performed after people died, but most of the time when you see a marriage date after the death date, that's going to be a red flag for a bad merge. And then also overlapping marriages. Again, if you are working in a culture that doesn't practice plural marriage, or a culture or a time, and you have overlapping marriages, probably that's a sign of a bad merge. So the problem that I run into in working with people is that sometimes we trust technology more than common sense. So all of us would look at those red flags, right? And they're just so obviously wrong. Women don't have children when they're 3. And in England in the 1800s, people were not typically married to more than one person at a time. But I've also sat by people where they see that FamilySearch has suggested a merge and they look at it and it doesn't make sense to them and they merge it anyway because they think, well, I'm probably wrong and FamilySearch is probably right. The comment that I wanted to make about that is, when we trust technology more than common sense, we're kind of going a little bit too far in trusting technology. And technology is a great tool to use with common sense, but it's not a replacement for common sense. There's another thing that I wanted to mention here, which I've actually run across surprisingly often. And that is that if we're not aware of bad merges, of the possibility of a bad merge, then it's easy to misdiagnose the problem. Here is an example that is representative of multiple examples that I found in Family Tree. So user number 1 comes in and adds John Pringle with a correct death year of 1855. So far, so good, right? Then user 2 comes along and does an incorrect merge, not looking at the dates or not doing any sanity checking. And in the process, she adds children who are born after John dies. So he's now still got this death date of 1855, but now he's got kids born in 1863, 1867, 1869, and so forth. Well, then user 3 comes along and says, gosh, people can't have kids after they're dead, obviously, so the death date must be wrong. So then she changes the death date to be after the last child is born. The thing is, the solution was to undo the incorrect merge. So by changing that death date, that actually did not solve the problem. It made it worse because it made it less likely that anybody would would even discover the bad merge and then undo it. So if you're like me, it's helpful not just to hear words, but to see an example. So let's walk through this. And I think because we're streaming in different locations, I'm not going to ask you to put your answers in the chat today. Sometimes we do that. But for now, just look at this screen and think to yourself, or if you're watching with people, communicate with each other. What contradictory information do you see on this first screen here? I'll give you just a second. Yeah, if you noted that the birth is 2 years after the christening, you're exactly right. As far as I know, the Church of England did not practice premortal christening, so this is not going to happen that we have a birth date 2 years later than the christening date. And then we go to sources. What do you notice about these sources? So we've basically got 2 christening sources here, 2 years apart. When we open those up, this is what we see. The first christening source is for the 13th of July in 1796. I know that writing is probably small for a lot of people, so I'll read it. And it does show that Alice is the daughter of Armstrong and Margaret Simpson, and that she's christened in St. Paul Blackburn in Lancashire. When we open up the other one, we see something very similar. And I think this may even be why the person did the incorrect merge, because we've got June and July, we've got 13 and 17. And the years are only 2 years apart. The place is the same, the parents are the same. So if you don't look closely at this and really pay attention to detail, it's just easy to gloss over it and go, oh, Alice Simpson, 17 something, Armstrong, yeah, we're good, and do the merge. And I believe that's probably what happened in this case. So the next thing that is a good idea to do after you see these red flags, so to speak, of an incorrect merge is to actually verify it in the changelog. So this latest changes box is found over on the right-hand side of any person page in Family Tree. And the way to see all the changes is just to click Show All. And when you get inside, FamilySearch has done this amazing new feature that allows you to filter the different types of changes. And today we're just interested in merges. So to make this screenshot, I clicked Filter, and then I clicked Merges, and it gave me one merge. Just very simply shows me exactly what I'm looking for. And you notice that the reason statement that the person gave for this merge is same info. So she apparently just looked at it, and I know that well, I shouldn't say I know, but I can just about guarantee you that she did this with the best of intentions. Nobody comes into Family Tree most of the time and says, I'm really going to mess stuff up today. Most people just don't do that. And so I'm very confident that she looked at this and said, oh yeah, everything looks good. FamilySearch said it was a duplicate. Let's do the merge. So we see here, this is the only merge. And so that actually makes our job easy. Sometimes you filter for merges and you get 10 or 20. But on this particular person, we just got one that we need to check out. So then the next thing that I like to do, oh, I forgot. I wanted to point out one thing that actually is not recognized very often, but can really trip you up if you're not aware of it. Anytime in the change log where you see an icon next to the person, that means that the change log is pulling the current information off the person page. It is not the information, not necessarily the information that was in place at the time of this merge. So that's something really important to be aware of. Because when I first started working in the changelog, I just assumed that this information would absolutely be what the information was on this date, on the date of the merge, but it's actually not. Anytime you see the icon, it just means it's pulling the current information right off the person page. If you don't see the icon, that's an example of text that is, you'd say, static, right? It's just not going to change. It is recorded as it was, and it's always trustworthy. But anytime you see the icon, don't take it for granted that that is the way the name appeared when the merge was done. So what I like to do when I'm troubleshooting merges is actually use the beta site, beta.familysearch.org. So let me explain two things here about step 4. If you've never used beta, again, the URL is just, instead of www.familysearch.org, it's beta.familysearch.org. You sign in with your regular FamilySearch username and password, so you don't have to set up anything. But what this is kind of, they call it a sandbox or sometimes a playground. It's just a place where FamilySearch about once a year will populate that beta site with information from regular Family Tree. They usually do that in December, although I have seen it happen at other times, but mostly it's in December. They just copy everything over, and then you've got a copy of things that you can just play with risk-free without causing problems in the live system. So when you're untangling merges, going into beta is a great place to practice and to see what's really going on. Because because FamilySearch itself, because the life system is the place that controls temple work, and it's the place of the shared tree where we're, where everybody can see what's going on. I don't want to experiment in the live system, but I'm perfectly willing to experiment over in beta because it's not going to cause problems for people. So I went into beta. Oh, the other thing, whoops, sorry. The other thing I wanted to mention was, in untangling a merge, one of the key things to do is figure out who the person was intended to be when they were created in Family Tree or brought over into Family Tree from a previous system. The only way that I know to do that with any confidence is to go into the changelog and to scroll to the bottom. Because as you might be aware, actually our next class is on the changelog, so we'll be going into this. But as you may be aware, the changelog is shown in reverse chronological order, which means that the newest entries are at the top, the oldest entries are at the bottom. So if I want to see when a person was created and who created them and what information they were created with, then I want to scroll to the bottom of the changelog. So the first Alice, the one who was christened in 1796, when I unmerged her, this is what I got. I got just a single christening date. It didn't have two christenings, and it had the right parents. And because of uh, of issues that we won't go into here, she didn't have a surname. So she was just plain Alice. Then what, but you could tell from her parents' last name, because of the culture that she lived in, you know that her last name would have been Simpson when she was christened. And then the other one, when I undid it, it also only had one christening date, and it had the right parents and the right location. So these two change logs from these two gals, after I undid the merge and looked at them, it was very clear that they were different people and apparently siblings in the same family. But so why would a family have two girls with the same name? Well, for those of you who are, probably a lot of you who are familiar with English research, you know that at this time in England, if a family had a girl or a boy, a child who died, then later had a child of the same gender, they would give that second child the same name as the first one. And this actually happened quite a bit. So when you see two children with the same name in a family a couple years apart, that's not necessarily evidence of a problem. It's just evidence that this was a practice for these people at this time in England. So what I wanted to do to just prove that was to quickly look for a burial for the first Alice to see if I could prove that she died before the second Alice was christened. And indeed, look what we find. We go to the parish register for St. Paul of Blackburn, which is the same place where the girls were christened. And we find this on July 17th, Alice, the daughter of Armstrong and Margaret. And in this case, they actually did list the parents, which is a little bit unusual for an English burial, but so helpful in this case. And this sweet little girl was 13 months when she passed away. And you notice that this information totally makes sense with the christening that we saw for Alice. So she's christened in July of 96, and she has a burial 13 months later in July of 1797. So with this information, everything lines up and we feel very confident that this burial is for our first Alice and that she died, and then her younger sister was given the same name. So that is an example of how you verify whether an incorrect merge has taken place. Now let's take a look at the mechanics of undoing an incorrect merge. And again, this is just going to be the step-by-steps. This isn't going into deep analysis, but this is how you do it. You've basically, when you understand or you've analyzed and you know that you've got an incorrect merge, you've got two options. If no changes have been made since the merge was done, there will be an unmerge button. It's one click and you're done. But if changes have been made since the merge, you're not going to see that unmerge button, and you'll need to restore the person that was, quote, deleted in the merge. Technically, they're not really deleted. You can still see them in the system, but that's the terminology that's used on the screen. It'll say deleted person. So let's take a look. Let's look at examples of both of those options. So for the unmerge example, we're going to use Samuel Hibbert. We can't use Alice because she is going to work for the second option. But for this Samuel, let's just, for this example, I'll tell you that I've done the research and I know that these two people should not have been merged. And so the first thing I want to do is click Show All to view the change log. And because nothing has changed since this bad merge was done, here's the unmerge button up here. You just click it. You get a pop-up screen that gives you the reason, and you can review that reason. And if someone has written a very careful explanation, then you could look at that and go, maybe I really shouldn't be undoing this merge. But in this case, this is actually an explanation that I see most of the time for merges, same person, same data, or now there's canned reason statements that just say pretty much the same thing. And when you look at that and it doesn't really provide evidence for why the merge was done, then I trust the research that I've done, and I say, okay, they probably thought it was the same person, I'm sure with the best of intentions, but I've found evidence to the contrary, and I do not believe that these are really the same person. So you do take time to review the reason statement, and then you get the chance to do a reason statement of your own. So I wanted to give an example here of what I would consider a helpful reason statement that goes beyond just same person or same information. So the reason that I knew these two Samuel Hibberts were the same person, or were not the same person, is because they were born in different years in different places. Just because their names are the same, that doesn't prove anything, right? All of us probably know people, almost all of us, with our same names. When I was growing up, there was a girl in my ward with my same name. There was a girl in my school. Probably a lot of you have experienced that as well. So, but I don't know why logic seems to sometimes go out the window in family tree, and people think, oh, if they have the same name, that's proof they're the same person, but it actually isn't. So in this case, I said Samuel Hibbert, such and such, PID, was born in 1826 in Gorton, Lancashire. The other one, Samuel Hibbert, other PID, was born in 1829 in Chesterfield, Derbyshire. Although they have the same name, their birth information indicates that they aren't the same person. So I would strongly encourage you to take the time, just take the few minutes to write a really sensible reason statement. It doesn't have to be a novel. It doesn't have to be difficult to write. I would say just list the maybe one or two or three items that let you know that those two people are not the same person. And then easy, you just click unmerge and you're done. And when you unmerge, here's the great thing. Both records are returned to their pre-merge state. It's basically as though the merge never happened. Ordinances go back, data goes back. Those records just get restored exactly the way they were before you click the merge. But the unmerge button, as we said before, is only available if no changes have been made since the merge. If any changes have been made, you won't have the option to unmerge. Well, why would that be? Sometimes people look at that and go, that doesn't make sense. FamilySearch, are they trying to make things difficult for me? No, not at all. In fact, they're trying to stop us from making more mistakes. So the reason that FamilySearch doesn't just let us undo a merge if changes have been made since the merge is because Family Tree can't tell if the changes apply to one of the records, both of the records, or possibly neither. Maybe somebody's come along and added incorrect information. So rather than make a mistake or make the records worse, Family Tree just says, you know what? You've made changes. Somebody's made changes since the merge. You're going to have to sort that out. We don't have the information to decide who the changes apply to. So let's walk through the example of Alice, the one that we looked at earlier, because she had changes made. So you look at her screen right here. We're in her change log. And here's the merge that we looked at before. But you notice that since the merge, there have been 3 different changes made to her person page. So no unmerge option here, but all is not lost. Here's what you do if the unmerge option is not available. You click the name of the deleted person, and then the summary card pops up. And when you see the summary card, once again, you click the name of the person, or you can actually click person down here, but I guess I'm just in the habit of clicking the name. They both go to the same place. So when you click the name, you get into Alice's person page, but it's her deleted person page. And you notice it's got a banner up here that says person deleted. So there's no question that you're in the person page of someone whose record has been deleted. And it says up here, this person was deleted by merge, and it even tells you who the surviving person was. So it was that other Alice that we looked at. So then you click restore person. And this one, I'll tell you, I've had people look right at this screen and not see it, including myself, because it's just this little link over here in the right-hand side. So when you're working with someone, be sure that they know where to look, because it's not big and it's not obvious. obvious. So you click Restore Person, and then you get a screen very similar to what you got before, yeah, in the other example. So here we've got, again, the person said same info, but we know that the information actually wasn't the same. So anytime there's a reason statement that doesn't give evidence, I would say you can say to yourself, okay, that person did the best that they could, but this probably isn't a really good reason for the merge, and so I'm going to trust the research that I did. So in this case, the reason statement that I gave was Alice such and such PID and Alice such and such PID are sisters. They're born 2 years apart. Alice 18Z died before her younger sister was born, which is why the family gave the younger daughter the same name. And see, again, I don't want to write an essay on this, just enough to let the person know, okay, this is the reason. And then if they wanted to find out more, they could Google or find out, more about naming practices in England. But this is enough, I think, to just clue people in to what's going on. And then I just ended by saying they're not the same person and should not have been merged. That's why I'm undoing them. And then you've got your restore button, which you click, and they're put back. The person is undeleted, and they now both show up in the system. But the end result is quite a bit different from when you just have the ability to click the unmerge button. Let's look at that. So Alice Simpson, 16X, she's the one that we just undeleted. Her record is restored to its pre-merge state because Family Tree knows what that was. And so they just put her record back exactly the way it was before the merge happened. But what about those other 3 changes that were made since the merge, the ones that Family Tree doesn't know what to do with? Well, they leave them on the other Alice because that's all they can really do. So those changes are left on 18Z. The one good thing about this is that ordinances, because they're kept in a separate database at FamilySearch, the ordinances are restored to the way they were before the merge. But for this Alice, nothing else has changed. She is actually exactly the way that she was when you started to undo the bad merge. So that's why cleanup is usually necessary, because any mistakes that were there before the restore or the undelete are still going to be there afterwards. So let's take a look at that. Post-repair cleanup. This is an essential part of undoing a bad merge that is so often, I wanted to say neglected, but that's not entirely true. It's more accurate to say that people just don't realize why it's important. It may never occur to somebody that they need to do post-repair cleanup because nobody has ever told them about how this works and how the original record is still going to have all of the bad data. So why do post-repair cleanup? Because incorrect information, sources, and relationships will continue to attract more incorrect record hints, more incorrect possible duplicates, more incorrect relationships, both from FamilySearch and other users. And you might be saying, well, why is FamilySearch giving me bad information? Well, FamilySearch has to rely on the information on the person page. So if we put bad information on the person page, FamilySearch is of necessity going to give us bad hints, bad duplicate hints, and bad relationships, or it's going to encourage bad relationships. So this isn't a weakness of FamilySearch that this happens. This just means that when we're all working together in a common tree, we really need to do our best to make sure things are accurate so that FamilySearch can do their job in giving us good record hints and good duplicate hints and good evidence for relating to people. Otherwise, if we don't do our, I'm getting a weird echo. Is anybody else? If anybody's not muted, could you go ahead and mute your Microphone. Thank you. I think we've solved the problem. So I love this GIF because this is just a good example of what happens if we spend all our effort to untangle that merge, but we don't clean it up afterwards. Chances are very good that someone else is going to come along and either redo the bad merge or add some more bad sources or something, and all of our hard work is just going to crumble to the ground. And none of us want that, right? After we've spent the time to sort out a bad merge. So let's walk through the post-repair cleanup for our Alice's. So the record for Alice, recall that the record for Alice 16X is now correct because it was restored to its pre-merge state. She's only got one christening date and it is correct for her. And she's only got one source and it matches that christening date exactly. But do you remember what's missing? Do you remember in the course of our verification, we tried to find out, wait, sorry, I thought I had an extra slide there and I don't. So or I've got them out of order maybe, but in the course, so I'll just talk this one through. In the course of our verification, we found out her burial information. So we could actually add that to this Alice. Nope, do you know what? I'm doing it backwards. That's why she's not here. Okay. So this gal is the 1798 one. I apologize. I had that backwards. So this Alice is in 1798. She's the one that we undeleted, and she's now got the correct christening date, and she's also got the correct christening source. So she's all good. But Alice 18Z still has all the incorrect information. So you notice she still has her sister's birth date, which is after her christening. And she also has an incorrect residence in the other information section. She was deceased by 1798. So this can't possibly be correct for her. And it did happen as a result of the bad merge. And she's got some incorrect sources that also came over during the bad merge. And there's the slide that I was thinking of earlier. This gal, born in 1796, never had the burial information, but we found it while we were verifying her in the very beginning. So we can add that information to reduce the likelihood of a future bad merge. So when I'm trying to do this post-repair cleanup, I find that it's really, really helpful to make a little checklist for myself. I found that if I try to oh, I see that one, I'll clean that up. Oh, now I'll clean this one up. I'm likely to forget things that I need to clean up. And also, honestly, it's just a little bit of a pain because after I do each one, then I've got to reorient myself and say, okay, what have I done so far? What do I still need to do? For me, at least, it's just so much easier to make a simple list of the things I need to clean up on each person. So for the younger sibling, I've got to get rid of that wrong birth date, get rid of the wrong residence that's after she died, detach the wrong sources, add the death and burial information, and attach a burial source. Then for the other one, even though she was restored to her pre-merge state, I can still add the correct birth date. Remember, it's over on the sister's record. And the reason apparently that happened was that somebody added it to this record manually, and it actually was on the christening record. So we did have evidence of a correct birth date. So I'm going to manually add it to this Alice. I'm going to add correct sources from the record hints. And then when I reviewed the record hints, I did see that she had one for her sister. So it was not correct. And so I want to mark that one not a match. So then once I've made these little checklists, and it's nothing fancy, as you can see, you can do it in a Google Doc, you can write it on a Post-it note, you can just anything that lets you record that, then you can just bam, 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 go through it. So I'm not going to walk through each of these because I'm sure that most of, if not all of you, are very familiar with how to do these. But what I want to do is look at the result. So for the Alice born in 1796, now you notice she's got a correct christening, she's got correct death and burial, correct residence, and correct sources. All of her information is consistent with what we know about her from historical records. And the same for the other one. We've added her correct birth date. She's got her correct christening that was already there. And then we've also cleaned up the sources so that she only has the sources that apply to her. So that brings us to the end of our class today. Just by way of summary, we talked about red flags for how to spot an incorrect merge. We talked about the two options for undoing incorrect merges: unmerge if there have been no changes and restore otherwise. And then we walked through the importance of post-repair cleanup and also an example of how to do that. So let's see what time it is now. Check we've got about 15 minutes actually for questions if people have any questions. And I'm going to open up the chat to see if there are any. Oh, how do you save the handout? Dawn, that is a great question. Oh, but I see that somebody has answered that. So great. You've got the answer to that question. If you have any other questions, please do feel free to put them in the chat. Do you know what? Since we've got time, Dawn, I could actually illustrate how to do that if you like. So I've got this slide presentation up on the screen. I'm going to move the Zoom thing out of the way here. And down. Oh, do you know what? I'm on full screen. That's why I'm not seeing it. So you can't be in full screen. You got to get out of full screen to see the options. And then down here at the bottom, your slide may look slightly different depending on your browser, but you should see this little gear icon that gives you different options for what you can do with this presentation. So I'm going to click that. And then you want to click more, and then you've got these different options here. You can either print it, you can download it as a PDF, you can download it as a PowerPoint. No need to report abuse copyright because I've given everybody permission to use these. But do you know what? I'm actually not seeing an option that I thought I would see, which is the ability to copy it. I wonder if I do open editor. I'm flying blind here, folks. I'm not sure what's going to happen when I do that. Yeah. So you know what? If you want, these are all done in Google Slides. So if you want a copy of it, and you don't want to do a PDF or a PowerPoint, you just want a regular Google Slides, click that. Okay, now I'm going to walk back. Let me move this out of the way. Sorry, you guys, you probably can't see the Zoom controls, but I can see them and they're blocking my screen. So I am going to get out of here. And what you want to do is, if you want the Google Slides copy, you want to click the options button and then you want to click Open Editor. Then once you get inside that, up here on the File menu, you're going to see an option to make a copy. And so then you can either get the entire presentation or the selected slides. So that's how you'd save your own copy of a Google slide presentation, and then it will show up on your Google Drive, which is just drive.google.com. So Don, I hope that helps answer your question.
He said he didn't see the icons at the bottom. I don't know why, because I see them too.
Don, do you think you might have been in full screen mode in your browser? Because if that's the case, you should be able to hit F11 to get out of full screen mode.
Yeah, I'll turn my microphone. No, I'm not in full screen mode. And when I clicked on that icon, it showed your slide deck. The whole thing was there, but nothing at the bottom like you're showing now.
Do you want to share your screen? Is that permissible?
Let me see if I can get to it. Here's the, let's see, can I share a screen, Gerhard? I guess I can't until you.
He needs to stop sharing hers first.
Okay, I'll go ahead and do that.
I'll enable your screen sharing. Hold on, Don.
Okay.
There you are.
Okay, I will. Are you ready to go?
Hold on. It's not being nice to me right now. Hold on.
Technology does that sometimes.
Yeah. I needed to get onto the right, there we go. Now you can share, Don.
Okay, let me click on that and okay, that's yeah. You seeing my screen now?
Oh,
Yes,
it's
I'm link.
the bottom, Don. It's too gray for you to
That's-
see.
it's very, very light. Yeah.
Gray. Oh, it's down there. Oh,
Just
it's.
missed them.
I see slide.
Go to
See
the
it.
right. Go to the right. Hold on.
There you
there it is.
are,
Oh,
right there. That's the one.
oh, okay. Yeah, that'll do it. Okay, thanks.
And there you've got all your
There, more.
options.
Go to more.
There's more. Yeah,
There,
it's my eyesight. That's the problem.
yeah, and then to the far right, the second one of the four from the top.
Second one from the right there.
That
Yeah.
there, that's download the PDF.
Yeah.
Ah, okay. Thanks, you guys.
You
I
are
appreciate
so
that. That's my
welcome.
poor eyesight. That's the problem.
Well, that's pretty dim. That is very dim. I can barely see it.
By the way, I did notice that a lot of your slides, they're very low contrast. I couldn't read them because of that.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
Well, it's just when you get older like me, you get the eye problems, and then it's a problem. Anyway,
Yeah.
thanks. I appreciate all the help on that.
Oh, you're welcome, Don. Thank you. One thing I've learned too is that when one person has a question in class, there's a good chance that at least half the rest of the audience has the same question.
Yeah,
So,
that's about it.
well, I'm going to open back up the chat and see if we have any other questions, and we do not.
How about, we've had some good comments on YouTube, Kathryn.
Oh, wonderful.
In addition to the 15 people that have been watching this on Zoom, we've had 30 watching over on the YouTube channel,
Wonderful.
despite people not knowing there was a YouTube channel for us.
Yeah, that's a last minute tech switch.
Yeah, right.
Were there any questions over there, Don, or Gerhard? Excuse me. Sorry, I was talking to Don just a minute ago.
Carol's looking at him.
They just, someone wondered if they could go back and review this. And I said, yeah, you can go back anytime on the YouTube channel, go back and rewatch it as much as you want. So, and then,
We should post it on the Facebook channel also.
yeah. Yeah, so that was mainly, they just wanted to view it again because some of them didn't get in soon enough. But
Okay,
we got most everybody there, I think, so.
awesome.
Thank you so much, Kathryn.
You're welcome.
Yes.
I
Catherine,
have one comment.
Yes.
Just this last week, I had, it wasn't a merge like that, but it was where a person was attached to the wrong family.
Oh, uh-huh.
And so he had double parents and that, and so we unmerged it in the sense of removing the links to the parents.
Gotcha. A lot of times when that happens, if the kids probably came about as a result of the parents' bad merge.
Yeah.
It's kind of like that example I showed at the beginning where the woman added children to the guy after he died. And so the kids weren't merged, but the parent was merged badly. And that's how the kids got connected incorrectly.
Right.
So great example.
This is especially common in Scandinavian, where where the
Yeah.
names are so similar, and if they just go by names only, you get all this weird stuff. So.
Yeah, so true. And especially with patronymics and so forth. And then, because I've been told that in Scandinavian countries, there's maybe like 20 names that they kept using over and over and over, at least in older, in older centuries.
Yeah, that's
So-
true. Yes, yes. And they had a very common way of naming children, after grandparents and parents, and then, the order of that, and then also the given names
That's
were relatively few,
Mhm.
and so
Yeah. So you got to be
Brian
careful.
onto it and everything. There are just so many names. But anyway, I was thinking when we were talking about merges, this was kind of a different merge, but it was a merge.
up there.
Thank you for sharing that.
Catherine, I just thought your class was just really helpful and very clear. One of the problems that I found is that I can't, some of the stuff of my ancestors are locked and I can't change it
Yeah, that's
because so
um
much stuff has been merged in there and fouled up that now they won't let anybody into it to change it.
yeah, and in that case, you can contact support to,
Yeah.
as you were probably aware, yeah, to have them.
Yeah. But what a
Be able
pain
to-
to have to write everything out and explain
Yes.
everything
Oh,
uh,
yeah,
instead of being able to just do it.
agreed. And some of the times that actually speaks to another point is that there's so much to do that we really, and I'm just bouncing this off your idea. This is not to say that you either were or were not doing this, but there's so much to do that it's really, really important to follow the guidance of the Spirit as far as where we focus our time, because there is no way we can do everything. It's just not possible.
Yeah. We're never going to live long enough to do it all.
Right. And when you see stuff like this, it makes you realize why we're going to need the millennium, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly right. Anyway,
I,
it's a good presentation.
Thank
I
you.
got
Thank you very much.
one other thing I was thinking that I really liked was your comments on the reason why. So
Oh,
many
thank
people
you.
just don't understand the idea that that is to tell why they are making this change
Yeah, so true.
in detail. And they just, and some of them, like when they're adding the census and everything, they'll just say census addition, but why were those names on that census the ones that apply? They don't give the logic that they used to do that.
Right. That's a really good observation. And I think sometimes people are overwhelmed by writing reason statements because they don't know how. So actually that brings up a point is we actually have a webinar at the BYU Family History Library on reason statements. If you want, I could throw that in the chat.
But I run into
That would be helpful to have.
same
I'll
info
do
and
that.
stuff like that just have no meaning whatsoever and no understanding of what. But yet it's not. It's just that they don't understand the reason for doing this reason statement.
Right. And you want to know something hilarious about that is, shoot, I'm trying to multitask here. See the full list of recordings. Okay. The hilarious thing, there's two hilarious things about it. One is that, I don't know about you guys, but my memory is definitely not the best. And especially when you're working on a lot of families, I might not remember something I just worked on 2 weeks ago. And I have gone into records in Family Tree that I have worked on maybe 3 or 4 years ago. Do you think I have any memory of what I was doing with them? No, not at all. But if I wrote a good reason statement, it ended up helping me because I didn't remember what I did. And then I read my reason statement. I go, oh, okay. So I did think through this carefully. This is the evidence. And the other comment I wanted to make is that I think sometimes people are intimidated because they think, oh my goodness, I'm going to have to do this as if it were, I'm following every Elizabeth Shown Mills evidence explain, they just think this is so overwhelming. I don't know what to do. And so I'm just either going to leave it blank or I'm going to write something like same person that doesn't really give information. And what this webinar actually, the one I'm going to share in the chat, does is it gives you just some very simple guidance where you can just write a common sense reason statement that isn't difficult, but it still gives useful information. So I just hope that people can be not intimidated, but just use common sense. Look, these are the 3 reasons that I know these people are not the same. They were born in different places, born in different years, and had different parents. And it can be as simple as that.
Kathryn, have you seen, Carol just noted to me that they give examples of reason statements that you can, when you go.
merge.
Oh, okay. Do you know what? Those reason statements, I actually posted on Get Satisfaction and an analysis of those, and I would recommend never using those, just for the fact that, just a minute, sorry, I'm trying to copy this other link. Here we go. I won't go into huge detail. I see it's 11 o'clock now, but basically they're about the same as saying same person, because they just say, oh, all information matches, or the one that I think is horrible that I hope nobody will ever use says, there's not enough information on this record, but I think they're the same person anyway, so I'm going to merge them. Do you remember that one where it says, these records don't have much information, but I still think they're the same person, so I will merge them. And I would say what I'm noticing now is people are clicking those, and it is just evidence that they haven't thought through the merge. And so I would strongly recommend, the one thing I do like about them is I'll click them because they copy the PIDs in, but then I'll edit it to actually include evidence of why I'm doing the merge. So I'm so glad you brought that up, because I think someone just had very good intentions at Family Tree to add those statements, but those statements will basically, I can't even think of a time that they would be useful, to be honest with you, as they are. So I'm going to throw this reason statement thing in the chat if I can get it to come up. There we go.
That's great. And we'll go ahead and share that on our YouTube channel and on our Facebook channel. So we really appreciate, again, you sharing your knowledge, and this will be so helpful.
You bet.
So we really appreciate it. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to stop right now, and then we will start up again in about like 5 minutes.
Okay.
10 minutes.
Thank you, Carol.
Okay. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. We'll be back.
Yes, thank you.
You need to kill.